Everyone around you is telling you something is wrong. The therapist is calling it a crisis. Your family is calling it a phase. Your friends are exchanging quiet looks that communicate their concern without saying it out loud. The people who have known you for years are watching you with the specific expression of someone who is waiting for you to return to the person they recognized. And you are sitting in the middle of all of their concern, feeling something they cannot quite name from the outside. Something that is not depression exactly, not breakdown, not the absence of the life you built collapsing in ways that demand immediate repair. Something quieter than all of that. And stranger, a question that appeared one morning without warning, and that has not gone away since. Is this it? Not with despair, not with ingratitude for what exists, not with the dramatic quality of someone whose life has failed. Just a quiet, persistent, honest question from somewhere so deep in you that it bypassed all the usual filters and arrived without packaging or apology. Is this actually the life that is mine? Carl Jung spent decades studying this exact moment, not as pathology, not as a midlife malfunction that required correction back toward the functioning that preceded it, as the most significant psychological invitation available to a human being past the age of 35. He called what you are in the middle of the second individuation, and he said that the people who respond to it as a gift rather than a crisis undergo the most important transformation of their entire lives. Stay with me, because what comes next is going to reframe everything your family and your doctors and everyone who loves you has been telling you about what is happening. And by the end of this, you will understand not just what this moment is, but what it is for. Jung made an observation about the structure of human life that very few people in his era were willing to say as directly. He said that the first half of life and the second half of life require completely different orientations, and that the specific suffering of midlife arrives precisely because most people try to navigate the second half, using the tools and frameworks and definitions of success that served them in the first. Here is what he meant. The first half of life is oriented outward, building, establishing, achieving the external structures that make a life legible and functional in the world: education, career, partnership, children. The accumulation of the specific markers that society uses to measure the successful construction of an adult life. This work is real, it is necessary. It requires enormous energy and commitment and the specific forward momentum of someone who has a destination and is moving toward it. But Jung said it is not the whole work. And when it is treated as the whole work, when the first half's framework is carried intact into the second half without examination, the psyche begins to do something that looks from the outside like malfunction. But from the inside is something far more precise. It begins to ask for the rest of the story. Jung identified what he called the call of the unconscious at midlife, the specific interior movement that begins, typically between 35 and 50, when the psyche has accomplished enough of the first half's agenda to stop being entirely consumed by it. And in that space, the things that were postponed start making themselves known. The questions that were too inconvenient to ask when the building was happening begin surfacing. The parts of yourself that were set aside in service of the construction, the creative impulses, the existential questions, the aspects of who you are that did not fit neatly into the career or the partnership or the identity that the first half required, they begin pressing for attention with an urgency that the busyness of construction had been successfully drowning out. And the person experiencing this feels it not as arrival of something new, as return of something old, something that was always there. That got quieter when there was so much else demanding attention, and that is now, in the relative quiet of a life that has been substantially built, finally audible again. But here is where the crisis quality comes in, and this is the part that explains why the people around you are worried. Jung observed that the first half of life's success requires a specific kind of suppression. You cannot build efficiently while simultaneously questioning whether you are building the right thing. You cannot commit to a direction while fully entertaining the possibility that it is not yours. You cannot maintain the forward momentum of construction while attending to the slower, more interior, less instrumentally useful process of genuine self-examination. So the questioning gets postponed, not consciously, as a functional psychological adaptation that makes the building possible. But the questions do not disappear. They accumulate in the shadow, in the unconscious, in the specific interior space that has been running on low because everything it requires, silence, slowness, the willingness to not know, has been exactly what the first half could not afford. And then midlife arrives, and the accumulation surfaces, all at once, with the specific force of something that has been held underground for 20 years of efficient forward momentum. Jung said there are specific forms this takes, and I want to name them because if you are in this, you will recognize your version. The first is the achievement crisis. You built what you were supposed to build, career stability, the external markers of a successful life, and you reached a morning where you looked at all of it and felt nothing that matched the investment it required. Not failure. The success is real. The life functions, but the specific aliveness you expected to arrive when you crossed certain thresholds did not come, and you found yourself standing in the middle of a successfully constructed life with the quiet, nauseating awareness that something essential is missing. Not something the life failed to provide, something the life never contained. Because the life was built around what was achievable, not around what was true. The second form is the relationship crisis. Not that the relationship is wrong, but that somewhere in the building of the shared life, you both became the functional versions of yourselves rather than the actual ones. You know each other's schedules and preferences and reliable patterns. You do not always know what the other person actually thinks, or what you yourself actually think. And the distance between the intimacy you have and the intimacy that was supposed to be possible has been growing quietly for years without either of you finding the right moment to name it. The third form is the identity crisis, the specific disorientation of a person who has been so thoroughly the professional or the parent or the partner that they reach the age of 45 and realize they cannot clearly describe who they are when none of those roles are required, when no one needs anything, when the performance stops. Who is there? Jung said every one of these forms is the same thing underneath, the psyche demanding the second individuation, the interior work of the second half of life that the first half could not accommodate. He was specific about what this work actually is. He said the first half of life asks the question, who am I in relation to the world? The second half asks a different question, who am I in relation to myself? And the specific suffering of midlife is the suffering of a person who has built an extremely thorough answer to the first question and has never once seriously attempted the second. Here is where the gift is, and I want you to hear this clearly because it is the part nobody says when they are handing you the language of crisis. Jung said the midlife crisis is not the psyche failing. It is the psyche finally having the resources to do what it could not do before. The building is substantially done. The external structures are established. The survival requirements of the first half have been met. And now, for the first time, there is space. Not comfort, not ease, not the satisfying resolution of having arrived somewhere final, but space. The specific interior space that genuine self-examination requires, that genuine questioning requires. That the slower, deeper, more interior work of becoming who you actually are beneath who the first half required you to be, requires. The crisis is not the diagnosis. It is the invitation. Jung identified what he called the second individuation, the specific developmental process of the second half of life. And he was honest about what it asks of you. It asks for the death of the first half's identity, not the destruction of what you built, but the loosening of your identification with it, the specific psychological release of the belief that who you are is what you have achieved, what you have built, what the world recognizes you as, and the beginning of a genuinely different question. What is mine? Not what I built. What is actually mine? What is true about me in ways that exist independent of the external structure? What would I be if none of the construction existed? Who is here when the roles stop requiring performance? This question is terrifying in the specific way that genuine questions are terrifying, because it does not have an immediate answer, and sitting in genuine uncertainty, after 20 years of efficient forward momentum, feels like falling. But here is what Jung found on the other side. In the patients who went into the second individuation fully rather than retreating back into an intensified version of the first half's framework, he found something that surprised even him with its consistency. He found people who were more alive at 55 than they had ever been at 35, not more successful in the first half's terms, more present, more genuinely themselves, more capable of the specific quality of engagement with their own life that was structurally impossible during the construction, because the construction required forward momentum and genuine presence requires stopping. He found people who described the crisis years not as the beginning of the end, but as the most important opening of their entire lives. The moment the first half's edifice cracked enough to let them see what had been behind it the whole time. The actual self, the one that had been there before the building began. That had been waiting with extraordinary patience through every efficient year of construction for exactly this. The moment the building stopped being more important than the builder. So if you are in this right now, if you are sitting in the middle of everyone's concern, in the question that will not go away, in the specific disorientation of a life that is real and functional and somehow not quite fully yours, I want to say something to you that Jung said in different words across his entire career. Do not try to repair this. Do not try to get back to the person you were before the question arrived. Do not try to find the adjustment that will make the first half's framework fit again when the second half is already asking for something different. Go into it with the specific courage of someone who has finally given themselves permission to ask the question they postponed for 20 years. Who am I when I am not what I have built? The answer is not in the crisis. The answer is what the crisis is making space for. And the space, uncomfortable and disorienting, and nothing like the efficient forward momentum of the first half, is the most valuable territory you have ever had access to, because it is where the second half of your life begins, the one that finally belongs to you. If you recognized your question somewhere in this, the specific one that has been visiting you in the quiet, and that the busyness has been trying to drown out, do not dismiss it. That question is not a symptom. It is the most psychologically significant thing happening in your life right now. Share this with the person in your life who is in the middle of this, who is being treated as though something is wrong, who needs to hear that the crisis is not the problem. It is the answer to a much older one. And subscribe, because what comes next goes deeper into what Jung discovered about how to navigate the second half and what becomes possible when you stop treating it as the first half interrupted.